But welcome to the summer meeting of C2E2, the Arlington County Climate Change, Energy and Environment Commission. Wow. Hey, Kevin.
Hey.
This is an open public meeting. It is recorded as of now. So everyone is welcome to speak, but after the public comment period at the beginning, we'll have public comments. Only commissioners will be able to speak. So let's do a quick round of introductions. Especially introducing Scott, but we'll come back to you, Scott. And then we will turn it over to our public commenters. So Melissa, let's start with you. Just name and that you're a commissioner. Fast.
Hi, Melissa, Commissioner.
Joe McIntyre, Commissioner.
Henry Furlow, Commissioner.
Helen Haas, Commissioner. Jenna Peabody, Air Team.
Lisa Marcellus, Commissioner.
Cindy Lewin, Commissioner.
Alex Rowe, Commissioner.
Doug Snellenboss, Commissioner.
Katie Thompson, Commissioner.
Joe Trevette, Commissioner.
Scott Bordeaux.
Rob Sandoli, Commissioner.
I'm Kevin Mincy. I'm on the commission.
Elizabeth Whitney, Commissioner.
Okay, and let's go. I know we will introduce our public commenters.
I'm Jake Weber. Should I give a more of an introduction? Or?
No, but welcome.
I applied to the public comments.
Yes, go ahead. Right, and you've met with Doug.
Yes.
Right.
I'm a current research fellow at the EPA. I work currently in indoor air quality, so a lot of technical modeling to try to use mathematical models to better inform indoor air quality guidance and policy. My background is mostly in atmospheric chemistry, air quality, and like so. I've done a lot of technical experiments with cloud chambers and air quality chemistry, and I've also done some environmental sampling with coastal urban water pollution and how that impacts air quality.
Well, thank you. And thank you for coming. We really encourage applicants to come to a few meetings. I think Henry came to like 6.
Do my part.
Yeah, Lisa, Katie, everybody around the table is coming. So thank you for being here. And Bill and Kate.
Bill Richardson. I am a total amateur. I'm the president of the Donaldson Civic Association here to talk about the low residential study.
And Kate.
And I'm Kate Matos, president of the Blue Mountain Civic Association. And I am here because I'm in the coalition headed by.
Right. And then I think you guys have another coalition member on. Is with you? Susan, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yeah, hi, I'm Susan Land, and I'm actually with ATAG, which is the Arlington Tree Action Group. And I'm here to support Bill and the coalition.
Great. And Rich.
Hi, good evening, everybody. Rich Dooley, Director of Climate Policy for the county. Thanks.
Okay. And while we're introducing Rich, Jennifer, you suddenly disappeared from my site, but
Hi, I'm Jennifer.
Helen is tall. Yeah. Jennifer will be speaking, so we'll introduce her again. Rebecca and Emily will be speaking, so Emily will hold off on introducing you. Rebecca.
Hi, everyone. I'm Rebecca DeBoer. I'm a research associate at the National Academy of Sciences and a planning student at Virginia Tech. So I'm mostly here to listen in. Thank you.
Thank you. And David.
Hi, folks. David Friedman, Arlington resident, and here just to learn a little bit more about the committee and say hello to a group of folks I know.
Steve.
Hey, good evening, Steve Burr, county staff on the air team.
And Jamie. Okay, Jamie Kern of the Energy Committee. Talking fast, let us turn it over to our public commenters, and because they are speaking on behalf of Arlington County's civic group, they get 5 minutes, and Bill has kindly agreed to speak for the 3 of them. And we did have this issue on our agenda, but it's great to have the public perspective on it. So we'll come back and do more sort of introductory stuff, but I don't want to hold you guys up. So over to you.
Okay, where do you want me?
Where would you could come stand up here if you'd like, or stand down there. You could have a seat, a chair.
I have only 10 copies of this in there, so maybe you should share them.
And we can always email this around.
If that's okay.
Of course. Fine. Ready? I will go ahead and start. You ready to go?
Yes. What's that? Yeah.
Okay, so
So appreciate the chance to appreciate the time you've given me tonight. And you've heard my co-conspirators here. The county board will soon be asking for your views, so-called low residential study. In our view, this is a pale version of what we asked for years ago, a lot coverage reform study. What the board voted for 2 years ago in the Forestry and Natural Resources Plan. And I will tell you the difference. Our views are shared by so far 23 civic associations that are on this map. They represent over 25,000 households in Arlington, highly diverse neighborhoods from Jane Bridge Forge up here to Green Valley down here, from Glen Carlin over here to Langston and Penrose up here. The low residential study looks at how to reduce impervious surfaces generally. It does not even try to address most of our concerns over the years. We have been asking the board to address what I think many of you see in your neighborhoods, the accelerating pace of tear downs and their replacement with monster houses. A recent Slate article by an Arlingtonian refers to this as how giant white houses took over America. As just one example, look at this house in Westover, my old house, a 2-bedroom Cape Cod when I was at high school at W&L in 1967. Now look what it has become, which is a 6-bedroom, 7,000 square foot structure that towers over these other houses in this Westover neighborhood. Some of our concerns about these gigantic houses may not be within C2E2's jurisdiction. These include depleting our diminishing stock of smaller, far more affordable homes, and the classic zoning problem of not fitting in by dwarfing neighboring homes like this. But there are also important climate change, energy, and environmental reasons that we hope you will agree with us on. As the Forestry and Natural Resources Plan recognized, tree canopy can reduce the impacts of climate change. And most of Arlington's tree canopy is on private land. But these tear downs often involve clear cutting entire lots of their mature trees and building out to the max. At the same time, the county is committed to get us at least 40% tree canopy countywide. Of course, there's aesthetic and other environmental losses here with these trees, but they also make important contributions to absorbing carbon dioxide, avoiding urban heat islands, and providing habitat for birds and animals. These huge 6-bedroom, 6-bathroom, 4-story homes also pose enormous challenges for electricity and water consumption. And by their sheer height, they can block neighbors' ability to convert to alternative solar energy sources. A meaningful lot coverage study, as directed by the board, as we had urged and the board had funded, could have looked at addressing all these problems of large houses. But this year, the staff and the board reversed course. They now propose to abandon lot coverage, expressly rule out addressing building footprints, and now actually pose as one option not only not tightening up these rules, but actually eliminating them altogether. Even though this staff slide recognized that it is the larger houses, not other impervious surfaces, that are driving this big change reflected up here. I think you can see the trend line. After all these years, now we're told that lot coverage limits don't work because they don't include some porches and decks. But the solution is obviously simply to add these exceptions in toward how you count, what things you count for lot coverage, as Vienna did 20 years ago. We're also told that these gigantic houses are one form of impervious surface, so a total cap could have some impact on the size of the house. But this is misusing a stormwater management tool to handle a much larger zoning problem.
30 seconds.
In fact, the stated goal is to give builders flexibility in the marketplace to build larger houses by saving on sidewalks and patios. And we've seen what builders will likely choose to do. Without limiting the most important driving source of the problems I've identified, which is the sheer increased mass of the house, we will have failed. It's been 11 years since the county staff recognized the need to revisit lot coverage. We've been told year after year they're going to get to it, and maybe they will at some point. But we hope you will be as concerned as we are and let the county board know your concerns before it is too late. Thanks again, and happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Bill. And for everyone, the low residential study is moving forward. I hear Bill's concerns. Lisa has agreed to be our rep on it with her forestry background. When I asked her to do it, I didn't realize it was much of a hot potato as I think it is, but we appreciate your informing us. And everybody got the materials that I sent around with the agenda and a lot to discuss. So thank you very much.
Thanks, everybody.
And you all, it's an open public meeting. You're welcome to stay. You're also, you don't have
Are
to.
you going to be talking about this subject later?
Not until 9 o'clock. I would call, you could call in if you, I think what I was gonna say is Lisa's our person to support that. So that just saved you a lot of time. All right, thank you again. So going back a little bit to introduction. First of all, I want to introduce Scott Bordeaux, who is new today. He was elected by the board 2 weeks ago, I think. He's been a longtime member of the Energy Committee. And Scott, can you say a few words? You've been a long time, you were back at the Community Energy Plan.
Now, with the original task force and advisory board on the plan, part of the implementation review committee, which became energy committee. So it's been a long run. By day, I'm an architect working on sustainability issues with the firm. And similar volunteer stuff. Chair, building together Arlington, Fairfax, Falls Church board, and I don't know what else to tell you. Since 1998.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I'm just gonna go back to the part where you're an architect who is head of sustainability for a national architecture firm, because I think that is really one of the reasons why we're really glad to have you with all of the SPRC that we're doing, and it's great.
Thank you.
I want to mention that Trevor, who is unable to join us, he's having a family issue and it's ongoing. So I don't know when he'll be able to join us again. That's why he missed July as well. Jonathan, the mysterious Jonathan, who's been gone, he finished 3 months of paternity leave and went back to work last week where he immediately went on a business trip. So he is not able to be here. But since his love, because this is his last meeting, because he is term limited off after 6 years, and I think Jonathan was the chair of the Energy Committee. I think he was important in developing our scorecard and all of that. But the person who is here, who I really want to recognize is Joan. So Joan, I don't even know what to say. You've been chair for 3 years, then you stayed on as vice chair to help me, and you have been. I haven't asked you if we could keep calling you because I don't want to give you the opportunity to say no. But I really, I want to give you a chance to say a few words, but thank you. I think you've really professionalized this commission for a long time. And we have cake in your honor that says, thank you, Joan, in green icing, because green for eco. So we will have cake. But Joan, over to you and thank you. And it's hard to believe.
6 years went by really fast. Of course, I think pandemic just condensed and changed all of reality too. So, but it's been a great 6 years. I really enjoyed meeting it, and I'm sad to have to go off of it. But I'll still be engaged in this area very actively. So always feel free to call me. I think we've got a good commission set up now. So, I expect.
We do. Look around the table.
Yeah, most everybody's here.
So thank you. And I see that John Bloom is on he was the chair before you and he's still calling in, so, okay, so let John be your model, and then I have, is there any other kind of introductory comment? If not, I will turn it over to our first guest speaker, Emily, and I will cut cake while Emily talks. So, Emily is a member of the AIR team and is part of our ongoing series of Meet the AIR team, find out what the AIR team is doing. I do want to mention that Jason, who is head of the AIR team, well, I guess Steve, maybe you're officially head of the AIR team. Anyway, Jason is presenting in October on an overall AIR team update, but Emily is working on a lot of interesting things. And after Emily, we only have one more person on the AIR team to present who might present in October, but Emily, thank you for your forbearance, because I know we bumped you 2 months in a row, and now at last, Emily Nachbar.
Yeah, I should have come in person for the cake, but thanks for having me nonetheless. Nice to meet all of you, or those who I haven't met yet. I thought I'd just start introducing myself personally and then talk about my career, and then we can obviously talk about the work that I do with the county. So I personally care a lot about reducing our impact on global climate change. I live by my word. I fully electrified my house that we bought 4 years ago, turned off the gas service with Washington Gas, was a really great moment. I've only ever driven an EV, and our family purchased an e-bike this summer, which we now take our 1-year-old to daycare on. And then this weekend we were already wanting to buy a second one, so both my husband and I could be on an e-bike all the time. So I really live by my word. I care about this stuff a lot. As far as my career, so I came to the county 2 years ago from AES, which is a publicly traded energy company headquartered in Arlington. There I worked on a couple different things, but the thing I'm most proud of was working on our 24/7 time-matched carbon-free energy deal with Google. I was one of pretty much the main modeler on that deal, which we tried hundreds of different portfolios to figure out how to negotiate that agreement. I also worked in finance for the renewables division while I was there, and also worked on an EV startup where we tried to get more butts in seats, people in electric vehicles. Before that, I worked at the Brattle Group, where I did economic quantitative analysis for various players in the energy industry. I would say notably, I did a couple consulting gigs for PJM, the independent system operator for the grid in the Mid-Atlantic. So at the county, I started here about 2 years ago. My title is energy analyst, but I would say I kind of do anything and everything on the AIR team. My most core function is doing sort of energy data management, analysis, and communication. So starting with the least fun work is just maintaining our database of our energy use from our utility bills and other relevant energy data like EV charging and solar generation on all of the county's property. And then sort of once that data set, which there's always things that come in a little funky, that is the baseline for all of the analysis that we do. And it's really important to have good data to allow us to do good analysis and have informed decision making. So we use that data for a number of different purposes. I have developed a few different public dashboards where the public can view and understand the data from our operations. So one example is a public EV charging dashboard that shows sort of different ways to understand how public charging has looked at the county's own 51 EV charging ports that are located on county property everywhere from Central Library down to Longbridge Aquatic Center and up to Madison Community Center. So there you can look at the amount of energy charged, the number of charging sessions that have happened at county facilities. And we use that data to help inform where is more charging needed in the future, where are our policies around the amount that we charge customers, or how we do parking enforcement, all of those kind of how we allow our chargers to get used by the public. We can see how the different stations are performing and make tweaks to our policies to just kind of further refine that process. We also have a county operations energy dashboard that I've published that basically shows what is the energy use across all the different county facilities. You can see how each facility is performing, both on electric use and gas. And then finally, I helped publish our county operations greenhouse gas inventory, which when you look at the whole pie, or should I say cake, of greenhouse gas emissions in the county, Arlington County's own operations makes up about 3% of that. We want to be a leader in our community, though, and continue to reduce our emissions, even if it is just sort of a small portion of that. So you can see we published most recently the 2023 county operations greenhouse gas inventory on our website. And sort of beyond these public charging dashboards, anytime sort of a leader in the Department of Environmental Services or in the budgeting process needs to be making decisions around sort of questions related to our energy use, I'm one of the key people that can say, hey, I have that data. Let me slice this analysis in a way that can help and support your decision making. A big focus of mine for this year is figuring out how to address barriers to EV charging in the public. In our community, I think we're all sort of aware of the federal headwinds that have been going on, that the federal EV tax credits end tomorrow. So buy your EV if you haven't yet. But as a community that's committed to carbon neutrality goals, we need to figure out ways to better promote EV charging. I think today about 4% of vehicles registered in the county are electric. So great start. We're well ahead of most of the other jurisdictions in Virginia, but we do have a long way to go to support that change in the community. And so we, to address these barriers, we looked at 17 different strategies that we have in the 3 to 5 year carbon roadmap, and we chose to focus on the strategies that really have a multiplier effect where we can make a small change and that will make a sort of larger or outsized impact in the community. And so the first sort of order of business there is that we're figuring out how to streamline the EV charger installation process via sort of policy changes or zoning amendments in the community. And this especially, I think, is focused on multifamily properties, since that is 60% of people in Arlington are renters. There's a lot of people living in multifamily housing, and that is clearly the place where it's most difficult to do retrofits, to get to an agreement to add EV charging. So how can we really make the zoning document as clear as possible and streamline the sort of permitting and installation process? So we're focused on that along with CPHD to reduce barriers in that process. The next thing is that we're evaluating public charging in the right of way. So maybe more colloquially, just curbside EV charging. And are there ways that the county could even have like a public-private partnership where it's not county-owned infrastructure, but it can be located on county property in the right-of-way, and even potentially have revenue benefits for the county there without having upfront capital investment given our tight budget environment. There are other jurisdictions that are deploying this. I know DC has a pilot program in the works. Boston, San Francisco, or a couple other cities where they already have this sort of public-private partnership, curbside EV charging that could really be a boon for multifamily housing in Arlington, where some places it's just going to be so difficult to retrofit EV charging at home, and you really want to be able to charge in your neighborhood overnight to enable more EV adoption. Another sort of element to addressing EV charging barriers is to continue to assess public and fleet charging on county property where we already have existing chargers. So one work stream that I was involved with recently is to understand how much EVs are going to kind of what is the pace of EV adoption within our fleet, and how do the existing charging ports support that continued expansion of the electric vehicles, or where specifically, like what locations, what speed do we need to add EV chargers to continue to support that fleet? We sort of had a policy where we developed the chargers a little bit faster than we adopted the vehicles, which is the right way you want to go. You don't want to have vehicles before you have chargers, because then you'll have a lot of frustrated drivers. But as we continue to build out those vehicles, you have to continue to evaluate the deployment of those chargers, both level 2 and DC fast chargers. On the public charging side, one thing that we're taking a look at is how to make the signage a lot clearer so that internal combustion engine vehicles are not parking in those spaces. So electric vehicles are parking in those spaces, and they do park there, they're plugging in to charge. All of these sort of tweaks will help continue to improve how Arlington's actions enable more electric vehicle adoption in the community. And then the last part of my job is supporting with energy project implementation. I think a lot of that has been related to the solar that we have, both offsite through the Maplewood Solar Virtual Power Purchase Agreement, and also on-site, both through solar that we own and solar where we have just a power purchase agreement. So some examples of that include the Lubber Run Solar Power Purchase Agreement. So I was involved as we were negotiating and evaluating that contract with our PPA provider. And then I've been involved, even we walked through the commissioning recently and got to see the solar sort of installed and now finally operational at Lubber Run, which was really cool for me personally. So I said I have a 1-year-old. When I was on maternity leave, I did mom and baby yoga at Lubber Run, and it was really cool to see that, I had just negotiated or been involved with negotiating the solar agreement. Now the solar is there. And I love being able to just influence positive change from an energy perspective in our community. And then I mentioned the Maplewood Solar Virtual Power Purchase Agreement. Since I come from AES, which is a huge solar developer, or I think until recently they had developed the largest solar site east of the Rockies. So I was really pretty knowledgeable about the utility scale solar projects. So I've been involved with tracking Maplewood, tracking its performance, and working with Dominion to try to keep improving that performance over time. So I think I'll pause there. I'm happy to take questions, but that's a bit of an overview about me and what I do with the county.
Thank you, Emily. Doug has the first question.
Yeah, Emily, awesome. Thank you so much. You said that 4% of the vehicles registered in Arlington County today are EVs.
Mhm.
Based on your knowledge and your analysis and your best guesstimate, in 2 years from now and in 5 years from now, what do you think the percentage of vehicles registered in Arlington County are going to be EVs?
Yeah, so let's see. In the last 18 months, the amount of vehicles registered, electric vehicles registered in Arlington increased by 70%. So I would expect that number to continue propagating forward. I think maybe a slight decrease with the federal tax credits going away. I think one number I saw on that is that EV sales, sort of projected EV sales, would decrease by 10% relative to projections, but those projections were still, higher and higher sales than in prior years. So I'm not going to give you an exact percentage, but I could see sort of high single digits percentage in the next couple of years, and maybe it's hard to say. There's a lot of factors as we consider tariffs and other impacts on EV sales.
Lily and then Joan.
Emily, thank you very much. I am very envious of your work. But I'm curious about how many hybrid vehicles, the penetration rate, because as I understand, the jump to total like EV fleet is not going to happen. It's going to go through the hybrid first until we have more infrastructure for charging, and hybrid allows for peace of mind. So I'm wondering, what is the trend there?
Yeah, sure. So in that 4% number that I gave, that includes both 100% battery electric vehicles and also plug-in hybrid vehicles. So those are vehicles that plug into an electric power source and run on that power source first until the electricity runs out, and then they switch to gas. That number does not include traditional hybrids that just fuel from gasoline, and then they regenerate electricity when they're braking and then can use that electricity. So that would be like a typical Prius is just considered that kind of standard hybrid. In Arlington, I would say somewhere around 2/3, maybe a little less than 2/3 of that 4% is 100% electric, and then a little over a third, there we go, that's the right math, is the plug-in hybrid. I think there's two ways you could think about the future. You could say that the early adopters are the people that went the 100% battery electric, and the plug-in hybrid could represent, a greater percentage of the next adopters. Or you could say, on the other hand, as charging infrastructure gets built out and as battery ranges getting bigger and bigger on cars that 100% battery electric cars, people are more comfortable with that 100% and they could go more in that direction. It's hard to say where it's going to land. I feel like the mix right now is fairly representative of what I could see into the future. But I guess it really depends on how, I guess, prevalent public charging is and how much we solve the public charging for multifamily property, multifamily residents in particular.
Are you looking at Alexandria's plug-in program as a possible model for, helping, especially the multifamily buildings?
Yeah, so Alexandria does have that program. There's another program that Dominion has for multifamily properties that covers, I think, half the cost of the EV charger and the rest is on bill, financed with their electricity bill. I think given sort of the budgetary constraints in Arlington, I wouldn't prioritize the program that Alexandria has, but it is a beneficial program for sure in Alexandria.
Henry?
Thanks very much, Emily. It's a really good overview of your work, and I also am jealous of your portfolio. A couple questions about maybe pivoting to the public fleet that we have, specifically maybe asking Doug's question about the current Arlington civic fleet and what percentage of that was EV. If you said it, I apologize, I missed it. But then also about the Arlington bus electrification, if that is, I don't believe I've seen any electric buses. I know that we have there's a lot of questions going on and work going on around that. So I was curious if you had any thoughts on that, as well as maybe some additional, has there been any other, obviously charging stations are very important for electric vehicles, but have you, to your knowledge, explored any other ways of potentially charging electric vehicles? There's a highway in Florida that is like an electric, it's got like solar capabilities on that highway. I was just curious if anybody had thought of any other types of to sort of get at the charging question. Sorry, I asked them.
No, I got all of them. I don't have the numbers in front of me for the fleet adoption, but I can just say anecdotally, almost all of the sedans have been electrified with either Nissan Leafs or Chevy Bolts. We are, I would say, working through the SUVs, pickups, and like work vans. Adoption has been really positive. We're just kind of waiting for vehicles to reach the end of their typical life before we replace them. We also are working with schools because we manage, the county manages the schools' vehicle purchasing to help them continue to electrify their white fleet of vehicles where they do mainly maintenance on all the school facilities. The police vehicles are starting to electrify. There is a take-home pilot for 4 police vehicles. The police have a strong need to be fully charged when they start their day because they're out and about doing patrol work, as their job. That's had incredibly positive feedback. We included the sheriff as one of the participants, and everyone has said, we need more of this. The people in my team are excited about electrifying their vehicles. So continuing to explore that with the police department. And then as far as buses, so we have 4 electric buses in the transit fleet that started operations this summer. And then there are 8 school buses in APS's school bus fleet that are electrified. The kids love them. I rode around on one a couple of months ago, and it's so quiet. Honestly, the HVAC is the loudest part of the bus. So making progress really across the board in all facets of the fleet.
And Emily, I just want to mention that I was talking to Takas, Karen Takas, chair of the county board. He said he had just ridden on electric bus and he loved it. And he interviewed the bus driver at length because he's Takas. And she was a huge fan, said it was much easier to drive than a typical bus. She loved everything about it. I think she's anonymous, but otherwise you could on your like. Anyway, this commission has spent a lot of time pushing for battery electric buses, so it's great to see that they're coming in.
It was also saying is it was only, the battery was still at 73%.
Yeah, she did her.
It was at the end, towards the end of the shift.
Yeah, that's Takas. He gets the details. He reports it's 73%. Yes.
So there should be 4 At least 3 are in service, I suspect. And
So-
then there's 8 more on order.
Which is great. I see Lily, you have your hand up. Anybody else who has a question who hasn't spoken yet? Okay, last question.
Yeah, so I was just curious whether in your work you have been asked to look at how to set up partnerships with interesting and innovative companies that are trying to use more and more EV in their fleet. Like I know Amazon, for example, who is headquartered in Arlington, is wishing to increase the amount of electrification in their fleet for the vans that bring all the goods. And also, I know that, for example, Uber is looking for pilots for their AI-directed fleet that is going to be EV. So if we can just spur the type of partnership, we may be able to increase the level of EV adoption and use, and also ask them to help us with the infrastructure development, because it will be in their best interest.
Yeah, that's a great point. That hasn't been a priority thus far, but I'll take note of that and keep that on our list. Thanks for the feedback.
Great. Well, thank you, Emily. Everybody's jealous, so thank you very much, and we'll see you again.
Well, I'm jealous of the cake, so everybody truly is jealous. Nice to see you.
Yes, thank you again, Emily. And while Jennifer is coming up to, I assume you don't want to present from the dark corner. I will just say for people who wanted chocolate, I also brought chocolate cupcakes, but I didn't want to interrupt Emily to say that. And for all of you who tried to give me the single biggest piece that I cut, they were very, very different. Thank you. So I'm just going to pass these around. If anybody wants one, take ones. And Jennifer, this is something that we've been very interested in, and that this commission has certainly been about, horrified by the statistics about, okay, everybody all at once. It takes half an hour running a 2-stroke engine, gas-powered leaf blower is the same amount as driving a truck from Texas to Alaska. Half an hour. Okay, over to you.
Total emissions, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
It is ridiculous. So we, September 16th, we went before the board. And I'm Jennifer Fioretti, Assistant Attorney General, Climate Policy.
Yay.
So anyway, I'm very happy to be here this evening. So September 16th, we went to the board to present our proposed engagement plan for the engagement around a potential regulation of gas-powered leaf blowers. It would be a year-round prohibition, if you will. So based on the board's guidance, we kicked off our engagement the following day, and I'm going to walk you through the why and some of the background. Yeah, sure. Yeah, thank you. Yep. And then talk a little bit about the engagement and our timeline, et cetera. So, a little bit of background on big picture. I know many of you know this already. We've seen a fairly significant set of, members of the public that are really interested in exploring a prohibition of the use of gas-powered leaf blowers in the county. We know that communities nationwide have already taken the leap, if you will. And in particular, in the DMV region, we have DC, who started enforcing their leaf blower prohibition in 2022. Montgomery County, just this past July, there was a little issue, but that they've worked through it and they've continued to move forward with the enforcement of that policy. And then most recently, the city of Alexandria amended their ordinance to prohibit the use of gas-powered leaf blowers, which will become effective November 2026. So based on the considerable feedback that we received from the public, which of course peaked during COVID, Many people were working from home. They could hear the loud noise of leaf blowers sort of droning on. And we received a fair amount of comments. When I joined the Climate Policy Office last year, that was one of the things that I heard most frequently shared by members of the public across the board is their concern for leaf blowers and the sort of the nuisance noise that they create, plus the environmental impact, of course, and other items as well. So some of you may not be aware, and the main reason why the Climate Policy Office was tapped to lead this interdepartmental effort is because back in 2021, we began the transition of our own handheld gas-powered landscape equipment. And that was actually done when I was in Parks and Recreation as the deputy director. And so we moved both Department of Parks and Recreation, the entire set of equipment, and the Department of Environmental Services to electric. And that's all handheld. I just want to sort of reiterate, it's all handheld equipment. And happy to say, as of this year, we are 100% electric powered handheld equipment, landscape equipment. So the other piece, though, that you're probably wondering is about our contract. So the county staff cannot mow and landscape our entire sort of big right-of-way and parks. We do need help. And so we do have a set of contracts. Mowing and landscaping are the largest of those contracts that help support our efforts, our work throughout the community. And as those contracts expire, we will be requiring that all leaf blowers are electric as well. We actually, in 2021, 2022, we added language in the contract that to signal that that was our preferred type piece of equipment. We didn't get any bids on it at the time, so we wanted to sort of do this slowly because technology, of course, as I know you know, continues to change, particularly in this field. And so we wanted to have enough time to transition to understand the equipment, what works, what doesn't, what's the best models for our commercial use, if you will. And so we did that. We took the time, and now we have a pretty good understanding of how in this case, leaf blowers work for our purposes. And I'm sure you're not surprised to know that gas-powered leaf blowers in particular, so motorized lawn equipment, is regulated through Arlington County Code. It's the noise ordinance, where it restricts use in a residential zoning district during the nighttime. And if anyone's curious about the definition of nighttime, it's not daytime. But I can give you the details, but yes, it was very cute when I was researching it. And there is a fine for, there's a sort of civil penalty, if you will, for breaking the noise ordinance, which is $250 for the first violation and $500 for those subsequent violations. So potential policy, our policy proposal, if you will, is a year-round prohibition of the use, not sale, of gas-powered handheld, backpack, and walk-behind leaf blower equipment. And recognizing, and we did a fair amount of benchmarking as part of this. I think we've even talked about it a little bit at some point in the past, but we were benchmarking other policies across the country. And one of the things that we saw most common among those jurisdictions that made the transition was they included some sort of phase out period. And it really did range, but what we landed on in terms of this engagement was we're asking the public to give us feedback on if you were comfortable with a prohibition of the use of gas-powered leaf blowers. Is 18 months sound right? 24 months, 36 months, or something else, right? That you have to start somewhere. And that was really based on the research that we had conducted. And that really just gives time for both residents and businesses, particularly in the garden and lawn sort of sector, to make that transition, to adjust, if we were to do something to that effect. So there are a variety of policy considerations. This is not an exhaustive list. There are 2 slides. But primary among them really is the nuisance noise that is generated by gas-powered leaf blowers. And I know you've heard them outside. I mean, they're really average 95, 100 decibels. It really just depends on what type of model, how old it is, how you use it. But it can go up to 115 decibels in some instances, which is as loud as a car horn. That's loud. So that's the sort of first and foremost that we're considering. That's what we heard most from the community. Health, of course, is another major factor. They burn gas and oil. Only 30% of that material is actually combusted. The rest just gets emitted into the air. And the real concern particularly is for the operators who, in this case, if you're working in a landscape company, for example, you might be breathing in those fumes for 8 hours, 10 hours, 12 hours a day during leaf season. And then, of course, for the people of the community that are around leaf blowers, also incredibly impactful. It could cause heart and lung disease, cognitive impairment, cancer, strokes. I mean, the list goes on. There's a report from the EPA on it, and I do have that link. And I saved it. And so I do have that information, but then from an emissions perspective, also incredible. I mean, these little guys pack a big punch in terms of total emissions. As Cindy mentioned, we look at 1 hour of total emissions is equivalent to driving from DC to Miami. I mean, it's pretty significant. And then fuel spills, right? They don't always happen, but when they do, gas can hit the ground. It can seep into our waterways. It impacts our soil that both plants and the little creatures in our environment, that they need. So those are some fairly large policy considerations. And there's some other ones as well. So economic, we recognize, and this is one of the reasons why, if we were to do something like this, a phase out might be something that the board would want to consider because of the economic impact, right? So particularly from the business side of the house, if you're looking at a landscape company, they may have 3, 4, 5 teams, maybe even larger, and each team has 3 to 4 people on that in that group. In order to replace a gas-powered leaf blower with electric, you have to have multiple batteries, depending on what type of make and model you're choosing, how long you're working, how you work. But it could cost thousands of dollars to make a switch per person. So we wanted to uplift that as a consideration as well. Technology, it's not always a one-to-one comparison from gas leaf blowers to electric. And I from our own experience within Department of Parks and Recreation, we couple things. I mean, there's pros and cons, but certainly we changed the way we did business. We don't actually blow leaves the same way we used to. We actually leave the leaves where we can for all the wonderful environmental benefits that brings, but it also reduces the amount of power we need to use and so on. And certainly the on the con side is that if you are trying to blow all of your leaves, you're trying to blow sand or whatever else you're trying to do, your battery only lasts so long and you're going to have to switch it and continue to charge them. So recognizing that those are some challenges as well. And then on the sort of big picture environmental perspective, lithium ion batteries, that is, there are some safety risks associated with it, particularly around human behavior or the lack thereof of good behavior of purchasing batteries that are certified, that are well maintained, well stored, and then managed when they're at the end of their useful life. And we do have a place where you can recycle your your lithium ion batteries in the county. And there's a Home Depot does as well. There's a couple of places to do that. So our gas-powered leaf blower engagement plan is here. We are doing our level best to reach as many people as possible. So we had a virtual open house community meeting last week, and where we did a very similar presentation, asked for feedback, and then of course asked all who participated to fill out our feedback form, which is online, which really just gets to the heart of the matter, which is, are you comfortable with some level of prohibition of the use of gas-powered leaf blowers? And then if so, phase out. That's the phase out question. We also have a public demonstration coming up on Thursday. I hope to see you all there. I don't want to be the only one at this public demonstration, where we're going to, we have a vendor who's going to bring in a variety of different makes and models of electric leaf blowers so that you can test them out. I mean, they'll give you the whole dog and pony, and then you'll have an opportunity to actually try them out. We are heavily marketing this to landscape companies. There are 40, to our knowledge, 40 registered garden and lawn landscaping companies in the county. We have called every single one that is still in business and have talked to them, got their feedback, and asked them to participate in the engagement, particularly if they need it, right? If they're interested to come to our public demonstration. And then we've got in-person pop-ups and a webinar that we're putting together where we're inviting companies that have already made the transition to talk about their experience, good, better, good, bad, and indifferent, right? And hopefully we'll be wrapping up in November timeframe, November-December timeframe, and then we'll look for guidance on next steps. And this is just it in a different, our engagement opportunities sort of written differently, but I would ask individually, if you're interested, please jump on our feedback form and share your thoughts. Concludes my presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I should have mentioned that Jen basically came here almost directly from the airport. She just flew in. Oh, thank you for being here. And we wrote a letter that said we liked Alexandria's proposed 18-month phase-in. So we, as a commissioner, on record on that.
So I'm the owner of a electric charge leaf blower, and it's really cool and works really well, really fun. So it makes noise, but not nearly as so the online feedback form or the survey is something I'm sure staff is going to use to publicly disclose the results of that survey, and that's going to be an important tool in discussing with the county board and the county manager what exactly the kind of ordinance should be and what steps should be taken next. So that's something where all of us can have an influence. If you tell your friends and your family and your neighbors about this form, as I'm sure as commissioners, we've all signed up to get notifications from the county, and probably all of us have already received in our inbox this survey. Now, I have little patience for these things. This one took me 2 minutes. Okay.
Sure.
So I would just recommend everybody, if you haven't filled it out yet, please do so. Have your family members fill it out, have your friends and neighbors, and I think that will have an impact on how this influence on how this issue goes in the future.
When did the survey go out?
2 days ago?
Yeah, we're pushing out in different sort of venues, and we're trying not to spam you with emails and social media. So we're sort of giving it out in dribs and drabs, but it is open and online. We'll keep it open until October 20th.
And Jenna and I can send out a link to this group. Rob.
Thanks very much. Yeah, also very supportive and proud owner for several years now of all kinds of equipment, leaf blowers, edgers, lawnmowers, weed whacker, all electric. So it's great. Questions about the policy considerations. So presented 7 policy considerations, but the hook, if you will, is the noise ordinance. And the question is whether or not any manufacturers have sought, of the gas-powered blower, sought to bring the noise, come into compliance with the noise ordinance. And if that's our only hook, are there other ways that gas-powered blowers, either in our district or what has happened in your research elsewhere, if they tried to come underneath that decibel level?
So I guess it depends on how we ultimately set, if we were to do this, how we would frame the ordinance amendment, because there are two different ways that you could potentially approach it. One is just a straight out prohibition of gas powered leaf blowers without using like a noise meter. It's just because of the excessive noise, the documented excessive noise, it is not permitted in the county. The other way is actually by a decibel level, in which case that complicates exactly what you're saying. In our research, we've looked at other jurisdictions have done like 70 decibels, 75 decibels. It's just not, I have not seen a gas powered leaf blower that is that quiet. I mean, perhaps maybe if they have like a throttle and you can, right? But we looked at the manufacturers. I did not do an exhaustive review of all manufacturers sort of makes and models, but most of them were in the close to the 90 decibel level, if you will. So not as much of a challenge, but I do think, the whole noise meter issue is not necessarily the most practical to have to go out and if you were to enforce it and then you have to have a noise meter on hand, it just gets complicated pretty quickly. Yeah.
And I think also with the gas powered loafer, there's a frequency issue.
Yes.
That makes it more penetrating. So, I mean, even if they say they come below a certain decibel level, it may well be that they don't.
Yes.
That they're still going to be very loud and annoying.
Yeah. Harvard did a study about the frequency. So separate from like what you catch on the noise meter, if you will, is that because it has a very low frequency, it penetrates. It can be pushed out like multiple blocks. You can hear it. Whereas an electric leaf blower has a higher pitch, if you will, frequency, and it just doesn't sound as noisy. Right? Yeah, I learned more about leaf blowers than I ever thought I would. That's right. Yeah. There is certainly there's a difference. I mean, the two-stroke is really what we're focusing on, and yeah.
Yeah, but I know all the time.
Jennifer, I'm pro the change, but I'm concerned about pushback. Yeah, is the alternative more pricey, like more expensive to acquire an electric blower? Is it?
In the upfront, yes, it is.
It is.
Yeah, upfront cost is more. I mean, I think I'm talking like commercial.
Yeah.
I think what we've heard thus far is really coming from the commercial side of the house, where the upfront cost, if you're running your leaf blower for 8 hours a day, you need 3 batteries, depending on how you're charging it for, even in some instances, and that can get very expensive quick.
But my point is that with all the changes that happen at the federal level and some of the clauses that have been included in the BBB, there is a foreign concern of entity clause that will make electric batteries far more expensive. And so if you are trying to convince somebody whose business is landscaping and the cost is going to skyrocket, they're going to complain. And the best way is to be prepared about what the calculation of that cost increase is going to be.
Right, and they have calculated that, but you're right, the tariffs have changed.
Yeah.
They have calculated that you make it back. There's a higher upfront cost, but you make it back at lower maintenance, lower fuel. So anyway, I think Helen gets the very last question.
I was just gonna ask, I know you have programs with like renting out EVs, for example. And you do have Arlington, you said they have like electric leaf blowers. Would it be possible to go against pushback and just saying if you did, like you could provide for short periods of time, provide like lease out equipment? Would that be possible, or is that?
It's not out of the realm of possibility. There are some lessons learned from our snow blower loan program. Slightly different. I'm just, sort of giving you the bigger context. We have had very preliminary conversations with the library to see if that would be something that they'd be interested in doing down the road. We've been asking the library for some other things. We'd like to do some sort of collaborative event with them for our climate action plan, which I could certainly talk more about. But the idea is a good one. I think it's the mechanics It's not that it's impossible either, but it's just the mechanics of getting, not just buying them, because you also have to maintain them. So who's going to do that with the staffing levels and so on? So that's where it gets. Yeah, exactly. Just sort of working those pieces out. But I do like the idea and it helps with adoption.
Right, and the whole AMC and swap and all that. That's very expensive. Well, with that, thank you very much for giving us this update. And guys, we're on it's 8:00. We're on item 3 of our 13 items. So, Rob, over to you. Legislative priorities. I just want to, first of all, thank you, Rob and Henry, but Rob, you've really taken the lead on this. And this letter is due tomorrow, so they are expecting us. They know that we're going to hopefully approve it tonight and then just get it in tomorrow because that's the deadline. So speaking of clocks and ticking. over to you.
Keep it fast then, yeah.
No, I just mean, we got to do this. This is the next most important thing.
So,
Yeah.
so I tried to stick to the schedule while we did this all virtually over the last month and a half. And took a couple of rounds of comments. And again, we were given a format that we largely stuck to here. And this is the same as other commissions are using for identifying their top priorities. So we don't have like a complete laundry list, although we did attach an addendum to help identify some other potential priorities here. But we used the criteria that they asked us, and I thank you for the comments and edits over the time period. And I took most of them on board, responded to some, and had some individual conversations. So this is the final result, which circulated yesterday, but really just accepted all the red lines from the version that was on Friday. So why don't I just stop there?
Yeah, and thank you to many people who contributed. And you'll see some of your ideas from the first meeting, particularly this, well, we talked a lot about VPP and we've talked also, a number of you brought that up.
Yeah, I should probably give the top 3. Yeah, so we have the benchmarking, the augmenting what's already in legislation for VPP. Thank you, Elizabeth, for that. And then the voluntary climate disclosure. We went with voluntary, so again, trying to be realistic about what we can regard. We'll see what the legislature looks like, but want to be realistic and kind of get our nose under the tent with voluntary. And I think this is consistent with where the county's going to. And then we can see what the reaction is to that. And then we can maybe be more aggressive in future years, but hopefully get some early takers. So those are the top 3. And then there's an addendum that we were asked to include, which has some of the other ideas that you guys put on the table, some of which, or at least a couple of which, are expanded in the county requested format in an addendum to the addendum, if you will. So, yes, sorry.
Katie and then Joe.
So
Joe and then Katie.
good thing pointing it, because I didn't realize it was voluntary until now. But there's some language in here, like the impactful bullet under the corporate disclosure that says it would require disclosure. So I'm wondering, needs to be.
To remove.
Yeah, that should be removed. Sorry, yeah, that was some original language. It's under, if you go to urgent ready visionary.
4th bullet.
Legislation would,
Required.
yeah.
Would encourage, is that?
Yeah, that's probably. I would love to say require. I originally wanted it, Rob and I had a little bit of back and forth, where it was like require, voluntary, and I was like, all right, I guess I'll take what I can get.
Everything is a journey, and maybe
Very.
next year we'll be writing our legislative priorities letter about making it mandatory.
We can all.
I was just gonna say, appreciate all the work that Joe and Henry have put into this, Rob and Henry. I think it's really good. I was a little disappointed to see that the Dillon rule didn't make the top of the list, but I would say, given the number of opportunities that we've had to review it, that I move that we update the letter as it's currently drafted with the change that Henry, I believe, just made. Second.
Corey, what happened to the Dillon rule language? Is it still in there? Or?
It's still in there. We didn't make it a top priority because we just think we can't fix it.
I didn't pull it out because there was no explanation.
Did we pull it out?
Expand on what
There was,
meant and
and there was,
realistic about what.
there were several people who said, take it out. If we, it needs a constitutional amendment. It's just not, even if we have a Democratic governor, it's just not happening. We did get that comment. Doug, did we get that from you? Among others?
Joan also had it. Can
Yes,
we
Joan.
attach
The additional one?
Go down to the very bottom.
attachment 1?
Yeah,
Attachment one.
Yeah, I'll
I
put
had-
it, if we drop,
That's it.
if we
That's the
drop
list.
it. It used to be the
Thank you.
last one in this list, Janice, so that's a little bit,
the,
a little bit more.
dropping the,
So yes, we dropped it.
I
Dropped
did not drop that for the CCA.
Wait, I'm sorry, which one? Sorry, which one?
The one that was dropped was for the CCA, right?
No.
The
Oh,
Dylan,
you're talking about the
Dylan.
Dylan.
Oh, I was talking about Dylan.
I thought that was struck out too. Community choice aggregation, because yes, there's laws on the books, but for some reason, there's some sort of somehow, and we haven't, the county had a legal assessment. And basically answer came in is we don't think we can set up a CCA given the way the legislation's written.
So should we add another one at the bottom there
Yeah.
that says, I amend county legislation to allow for, community
Yeah, yeah.
the CCA community aggregate,
Choice aggregation.
community choice aggregation. Jen and I have to get this out tomorrow. We're
Yeah.
making any changes in real time.
This would be state legislation.
Yeah.
State, and then state legislation.
I wanted to ask,
Yeah.
who suggested a green bank in Virginia?
I know Trevor, but he wasn't able to build it out.
The only reason I say that is because there is a Virginia Clean Energy Innovation Bank already.
But it hasn't been funded, so I think if I recall, they set it up, but there's no money for it.
I was at Climate Week with the lady that is the second in the energy office in Virginia, and she talked about this. She said that she has funds because I was talking about solar. So maybe, I don't know if we're gonna keep that in.
Is it in a green bank?
Oh, it's
Oh, it's number G, number G.
Cindy.
Create.
Jen, I can't see you. You're just gonna have to leave up.
It is funded, but my understanding is that the money is going directly to the governor's priorities and not to sort of the broader green bank, like the vision for a real green bank. So I just want to share that.
So you think that there are still ways, allow for localities to do so, especially that part?
Maybe it's something more like strengthen and further finance.
Strengthen and further fund
Yeah.
a Virginia Green Bank or allow. I sound like this, Jen.
I gotta shook a little bit.
Okay. Okay. All right, any last questions? I think we have Katie's motion on the table, which was seconded. Buddy? Leslie, we don't really have to put the second in the minutes. All right, all in favor of approving this letter with great thanks to Rob and Henry? Any opposed? Abstaining? All right, the letter carries. And we will get it out. I have a 7 a.m. meeting, so I will, I'll be back at 2. Elizabeth, so Elizabeth drafted these wonderful comments, which we'll talk about, and Dominion had asked for comments. Elizabeth drafted these, and we thought it would give them more oomph if we said they were coming from C2E2. But the call I received from Susan Cunningham telling me that we weren't authorized to take positions on behalf of the county without going through the county board suggested to me that possibly we aren't signing these on behalf of C2E2. But I think that we can each, similar to what we're all doing with the survey on gas-fired leaf blowers, I think Elizabeth will submit them. I'm happy to submit them. And I think if more of us submit them, maybe that would get them more attention because I think they were really well done. Thank you, Elizabeth.
In my field, we like to call that good old Me Too comments. Where, they're not necessarily sent on behalf of a large group, but many people send. And so I think we can easily use this as a framework, and I plan to send these out to some other groups as well. So just to take a step back, we talked back in June about the legislation that was passed at the end of last year to require Dominion to do a virtual power plant pilot and what that might look like. We had a speaker in the Energy Committee who talked about their existing programs And then on September 15th, they opened up this sort of comment period. It's not wide open. There are these questions that you see here that kind of walk through on the website. So I think they're good questions. The little webinar that they put together is encouraging, that they do see this as a transformative sort of sea change, the way they deliver energy. Of course, the pilot won't necessarily be that, but it is a good start. And I was even sort of encouraged to modify the way we were talking about the pilot in our legislative priorities letter, to say that it does look like they are going in the right direction. So I plan to just sort of touch these up, but share them around with folks, and I'll share the link to submit the comments. But you can modify these however you see fit. I do think it would be a good idea to start talking to the board about this concept, because I do think Arlington County, Alexandria, Fairfax, this region has a lot of consumer-owned assets that could really be pulled together. I think the biggest weakness in what I'm hearing from Dominion's plans so far is that it doesn't have any kind of component to increase customer adoption of these. So they have an existing program to help finance rooftop solar, but it's sort of available if needed. And I think we need a lot more advertising and marketing to make sure that these, that people know that there's a path to finance these resources.
So I'm looking over, I know that staff is looking at submitting comments. So Jennifer, Jenna, yeah.
So one, yes, on all of that. And two, what we were planning on doing was, so we Climate Policy Office and AIR are working together to draft comments. So we already have the drafted. We do have once your letter is sort of finalized, what we were planning on doing was using that to form county official comments.
Wonderful.
And we agree, particularly on the enhancing adoption. Number one, marketing. Number two, technology, partnerships, financial incentives, and so we have a sort of fairly robust set of sections of feedback, but certainly want to incorporate and make sure that we're being sort of reflective of sort of our subject matter expertise.
I think one of the pieces in here that maybe won't feature in other groups is there's sort of this what I think is a missing entity here. There's space for a third-party aggregator to sort of do a number of these roles, but for someone to fit in that space and make money, there's really only one place for that money to come from, and that's from customer benefits, compensation side of the package. And I think that really needs to be retained for consumers. So there are a lot of models that I'm seeing proliferate where there's a private entity that's doing a lot of aggregation. So I think there's a important space for a not-for-profit entity to be there and to be very local and very responsive to customers. And there are models, I think Solar United Neighbors is one that there's, solar co-op that's sort of locally governed. So that's a big feature in my comments. I don't know if it'll be in the county comments, but I think that's something that Dominion should strongly consider. And it's also in our legislative recommendations as well.
Joan and then Doug.
Yeah, well, I think, if we can set up a CCA, that would be possibly a good focal point for doing that.
So I think an entity that occupies this space could morph into a community voice aggregator eventually. They're typically governmental entities, but the local government could designate an entity like this as a CCA when it's robust enough to finance grid scale generation assets.
And very encouraged that the county's looking into this, and hopefully maybe you're also thinking about how you can step in and say, we want to be a major part of this project or pilot, and here's some of the projects we have in mind that fit within that. and kind of, make this much more, get our county much more.
Can I just respond real quick?
Of course.
So we are inspired certainly by a lot of the conversation on BPPs, but certainly we have made a active decision to lean into this. And so separately, which it helps that EC has been sort of reaching out, et cetera, to Dominion, but we will be leaning in outside of the formal comment periods to provide input in small chunks, because we recognize that sometimes that is also equally impactful. We also reached out to NVRC regarding on this topic, and they are bringing together the localities to design potentially a strategy among the region as well. So, and third-party aggregators, yes.
Real quick, procedural question, does the board have to approve what the staff is going to come up with to go to Dominion?
No, it's not an official letter from the board since it's just comments, but
okay.
We'll make sure that they're aware of our general feedback.
Any other questions? Elizabeth, thank you so much. I think, as I said, I think these were really well done. And if you'll send them around with the link, I will definitely submit them, and I encourage others to do so.
Yeah, the deadline's coming right up. I think it's October 6th. So
Yeah.
we're not, no one was
That's
very much
Monday.
to react to this, but
Right.
that's not much to react to. But.
So impressive that you got this done. All right, well, thank you. So over to Alex. So adaptive reuse is a program where we take underutilized office space in the county, of which there is a lot, and turn it into housing, of which there is not enough. It's very technologically difficult. The county's really encouraged it and has fast-tracked it, so there's no SPRC. So the county approved their first 2 adaptive reuse projects in July, and we didn't even know that they were happening. But the county has reached out to us, despite the fact they fast-tracked this and are, no open public comment SPRC process. Susan Cunningham, our county board liaison, asked if we could figure out a way to give them some advice on this. So the next one that came up, Alex very kindly took and has an answer for whether we can help them on this.
Maybe. Kind of flying blind on this one, but yeah, this is an office project that's converting empty office space to 269 residential units. There's not outside of that a whole lot of information other than they're changing the roof to fit a pool. They're making no other changes to the exterior except for the windows. This is a mixed use zoning, so that there are businesses on the bottom floor. And so we pretty much prefaced this beginning part to kind of, show our support for the reuse. We're glad that they're converting empty office space to apartments, but kind of also mentioning that we don't have any information and that we need kind of a framework to move forward with getting information on these reuse projects.
Information for us and potentially information for the county staff, because you reached out to the county staff.
Yeah, I've reached out to everybody and their mother. Haven't heard anything, but hopefully.
Alex even drove over to check out the parking so that he could see if there was EV parking. He drove to the building because he would answer his questions.
And I asked the people at Bronson's beer garden, I'm like, is there any like EV parking in there? And no one had an answer.
How many beers did that?
And then the body is basically just light suggestions based off of the criteria that we've kind of graded on before. Pretty please leave any type of canopy, pretty please,
The county, like hiring a construction company, a developer to.
Yeah, this is Red Fox DC is the developer.
The county's not hiring them. These are private projects.
So I guess it sounds like we can expect to see more and more of this. So
Yes.
it's a one-off response right now, and we're going to develop an approach.
Yeah.
But what we're asking for is please find a way to make the developers give you more information that you can share with us, because otherwise we can't help you. So that's what.
And the board is kind of.
Well, I don't know if staff is getting more information. That might be a question for community planning and housing. Okay, Joe, and I want to talk about Scott's comment. So Joe, Scott, Henry. Joe.
So this might be a question for Jen or somebody, but what's the role of the county, since this is not regular SPRC, within like an adaptive reuse? Does the county board have to approve this? Is it kind of arena and maybe a change in zoning?
The county board did approve the ones in July.
Yeah, they do.
But yeah, they are fast tracking. They are encouraging them. They're taking vacant office buildings that aren't generating any tax revenue and turning them into highly productive housing. They're, and when we get to the green building incentive program, I will say that the current working plan on the GBIP policy is to drop adaptive reuse projects from the policy. And find ways to deal with the incentives outside of that policy, the adaptive reuse policy, recognizing how unique and how favored these policies are. So it's a work in progress, I think, both for the county and for us. But right now it's difficult for us to do a lot other than send in, yeah, here's what we see. It would be great to do this. Scott, can we go back to Scott's comment? Yeah, thank you. Right.
So this has been an issue in the industry since COVID started knocking people out. And there's a ton of office product nationwide that potentially candidates for this, but economically, from a development standpoint, very few of them pencil out in a pro forma. Is it easier to tear the building down and start it? Office buildings are just not designed with the same depths, column spacing. There's a whole lot of reasons why it's tough to do. So when it happens, we should be very happy about that. Yeah. And but I think so. Leading up to all that, the incentives, besides encouragement, need to be sometimes a little bit more, because you almost have to get the property at 10 to 20 cents on the dollar in order for it to work in a pro forma. And so anything the county could do to offer benefits, calculating and holding embodied carbon and giving not necessarily additional density, and that's not what I was trying to compare to, but like the LEED certification programs, there are ways to sort of say, if you can do this and show us the calculations, we'll give you tax benefit or some other something.
Yeah.
So that's
exactly.
That's where the comment comes from.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, then that's what we're struggling with the existing buildings when we get to green building as well. And I think it was
Yeah, I
Henry
think
and then Kevin.
Yeah.
Yeah, just a really quick question. I'm sorry, I had the wrong letter pulled up, so I was like trying to go back and forth. For the 269 new units, are any of those going to be considered like affordable dwelling units?
No, unfortunately, this is basically a luxury apartment building that,
that would make it even harder to pencil out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
From a.
Right.
Oh, because they don't get bonus density, so.
Yeah.
Kevin.
Assisted building, okay.
So whenever we get an opportunity to look at an adaptive reuse project as opposed to the typical projects where I asked to comment on, we're trying to build something new, my attitude just flips 180 degrees. I mean, there's nothing I get madder about than a new project and they won't put in EV charging and they won't do anything other than minimal things to get the incentives in the green building incentive program. But I think we are actually doing a disservice to the overall good if we're throwing any sort of delays or roadblocks to try to maximize some benefits on the adaptive reuse project, because just the adaptive reuse itself is so much better for the environment than letting the building deteriorate and eventually get torn down.
Right.
It's a win, even though you don't get it.
Right. So we wouldn't be slowing the process down. We'd be just sending in a letter. But to the point, we don't have any information to have helpful ideas. But I think that's why the county is favoring them. I think that we want to favor them. I think that's why the green building incentive policy is struggling with, well, relatedly, it's just hard with no bonus density. It's hard and not wanting to put cash on the table and supposedly legal limits on the tax incentives we put on the table. It's hard to come up with the right kinds of, but anyway, point is well taken.
The only other place you should consider pushing is on going full electrification of the property. That would be one more way. And that again, you might have to incentivize it
Right.
But that would reduce operational carbon alongside.
Right.
Onto the embodied carbon.
Completely love this, and keep these ideas when we start talking about it, because buildings where we don't have bonus density, we, the county, are short on incentive tools that we can afford. The last year's GBIP draft had us putting cash on the table and paying developers to do those things, but not for several years. So developers didn't even, if they didn't get the cash in the first year, it didn't work for them. So, we were short on incentives, but I mean, these are exactly the issues that we're all struggling with, how to incentivize.
So, parking, although office buildings typically, depending on where they are in Arlington, are anywhere from 1.7 to 4.0 spaces per 1,000 square feet.
4.0.
That's more suburban.
Yeah.
But along the corridor, RB corridor, it's like 1.7.
Right.
But you look at that and see if they get down to one per key, not a one space per key instead of having one. I'm just.
Right.
This
is
we'll be coming back to those.
Where when it come back to, it's like having a template with criteria, because to Kevin's point, it sounds like we really should encourage these.
Yeah.
But we should have some analysis in our pocket, why this is environmentally better than a brand new rebuild. And a list of potential additional incentives or requests that we could make to encourage certain types of behavior.
Yeah.
That's what I was just gonna kind of ask, is whether we were gonna put together that list, because we hear in there, we're talking encouraging 25% EV adoption, and then we also, on SPRCs, we say 50%. So I know this is probably gonna be lower, but we should have a 25% for adaptive reuse and 50% for new builds or something
Where
like
it
that.
meets and exceeds. So, but anyway, yeah, it would be nice, but I want to be careful about filling out, suggesting that we're going to be able to give the county a scorecard if we don't have any information. So I think the first step,
It's kind of impossible.
which is what this letter is about, is help us get information and help yourselves get information.
Yeah, I had made some changes at the end, this really is an issue that has to be put before the county, is that, they need to have some sort of guidelines related to energy efficiency. And I think maybe, and I looked at this fairly late this afternoon, so I didn't have a chance. I make it a little bit stronger in terms of reusing buildings is the best way to save unembodied carbon. Absolutely support that. But this is also the excellent opportunity to actually fully electrify and make it a very energy efficiency, because they're basically going to take these buildings down to the studs as they rearrange things and redo them. So that's the excellent time to put in the extra insulation. You say they're replacing the windows, so they can replace them with more energy efficient windows, et cetera, et cetera. It's just, and they can electrify because they're probably not going to use the same systems that are already in there. So, it just, if there's a way of, I know it's kind of worked in there, but, just come up basically flat out
Have to go into, Alex and I can work on it.
Yeah. Sure. But anyway, again, we're really directing this at the county and the county board. It's like, they need to be incentive, and builders and developers need to be incentivized to actually do this. And actually, given the shift in material costs and that, some of the downsides of or some of the reasons for going ahead and tearing down, that those could be changing. Maybe, I don't know, but again,
So we'll try to make clear that we love the embodied carbon. We'd love to make these an electric opportunity. What are the incentives that we can use in this particular framework without slowing things down? And this is a great opportunity. So we will strengthen that, and with those changes, some of which are already in here, are people ready to move to approve this letter?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you, Alex, for being the first one to try to do an adaptive reuse, being on the cutting edge or the bleeding edge. I love that you drove there.
Get a few words, yeah.
So, hi Jen, thank you. Jen, do you want to take the cupcakes for your kids?
Oh.
Do it. Do it.
They're not gonna cupcakes.
No pressure. Do it.
Okay, so at our July meeting, we talked about One Roslyn, which was the project that we had recommended. Failed our scorecard test. We recommended that it not be approved. It was approved, and we talked about to no grade 3, 30-story residential towers, hard to get that stopped. Penciling out was a huge issue there, but they did just the bare minimum, and we talked a lot about if we're not going to be able to get people to engage in the green building incentive policy, and they're just going to do the minimum the county requires, how can we get that floor moved up? So we agreed to write a letter about moving up the floor. And meanwhile, we've been talking about the update of the green building incentive policy, which is the next topic on the agenda, and what we can incentivize developers to do. And the answer to that depends a lot on what the floor is. If you're encouraging them, if they have to do nothing, then it takes a real lot to incentivize them to go up here. If they already have to be starting at some higher level, then maybe you don't have to incentivize them that much to get a little bit higher. So we said in our letter that these things should be released in conjunction, that we should have the standard site conditions raised at the same time or as part of releasing the new proposed GBIP, because how can you tell what it's going to take to get people to do a lot if you don't know what they have to do? So I think so we said that, and I think then and meanwhile, Alexandria came out with essentially new standard site plan conditions that are much higher than Arlington's. And of course, you're asking yourself, if you're putting out base conditions, why aren't those the same as putting out a building code, which we're not allowed to do under the Dillon rule? And the answer is that standard site plan conditions are a negotiating start. They are not, we cannot require them, but the county has to approve things, and if it doesn't approve them. So I still think if you start the negotiations here, and that is what Alexandria is trying to do, and certainly not publicly, but privately, they've said, yeah, it's a negotiation, and we're just not going to negotiate on these key points. So, and that is sort of how this game is played. So I still think it's important to get the standard site conditions up. I think one of the main questions we have about this letter is whether we just say, you got to raise standard site plan conditions, look at Alexandria's great model that they just came out with, and, just stop there. Or if we go on to say, you have to raise standard site plan conditions, and these are the ones that we want to see. And so people have put in a lot of comments saying, let's put in what we think they should be. And I think that's where we should probably start the discussion. I think opening bid was say that they should be LEED 5.0 silver, and choose where in the pick. Issue that was raised was, but don't make them get certification because that's expensive, but just use the criteria. Other people are like, yeah, but if they don't get certification, how do we know they're really doing what they said? And then I think Lily put in a whole new section just late this afternoon.
Yeah, so I was just looking at what Alexander did. That we already have a proof point that it was approved and it's working. And
well, they haven't passed theirs, so it's in draft and nobody's used it yet. But I totally working.
I took it as a guidance and I said, well, we want electrification, we want renewable energy, we want this. And just to give an idea to the board what we're talking about.
Right. And all I did was say, use Alexandria as a model. I do know that staff is looking at the Alexandria model. I'm fine with spelling out more, but the question is, what is the more we should spell out? So we have a couple of paragraphs. That one is from Rob. That first one that I put it in, but it's from Rob. That Lily has the above one. So I will stop there and see what thoughts people have.
Well, it's either genius or too cute by now.
Yeah.
I mean, it almost seems a little too good to be true that, you know, we've been lamenting for a very long time that we don't have the ability to change
To establish a building code.
like building codes, and then the standard site plan emerges and it looks a lot like building code.
Well, you have to take this in the context of developers can always build by right. However, where they're wanting to build in most places now, they want more density than what you can get on by right. That's the negotiating position.
So it still kind of comes down to the bonus density, the one
Yeah,
carrot
yeah.
that the county has.
Right, yeah.
Well, if that's the case, then almost everything that we've been talking about in the green building incentive policy should maybe be in this standard site plan.
Yeah,
Because it almost,
but
why,
yet so
we have
many-
nothing else to give.
yeah, but lately, so many of the projects we've seen come through the SPRC are not participating in green building incentive policy and are not getting the bonus density. And yet many of them are doing more than what Roslyn did for.
And
various
actually what,
reasons. So we're seeing people come in with a lot more. So why not require it? Why not see if we can get people, everybody to do that?
and actually what I'm seeing with, especially as you delve into the energy models, is that they're only committing to what they have to, which is 24, especially on the energy efficiency, it's 24%. You look at the energy model and I think there's one that, you know, has a Energy Star score of 96. So it would suggest that energy efficiency probably would exceed some of that 24% maximum. Again, you know, and they don't, it makes perfect sense. If I commit to something where there's actually a financial penalty for you if you don't meet it to more than you just have to. So minimum is 24%, they'll go with it. And actually, I think the site plan condition should have been updated to 24% too when they updated the green building incentive policy, but that just kind of gotten forgotten about. So, you know, when Roslyn started, it's like, oh, it only says I have to do 20%. So again, they may exceed 20%, but they're not going to commit to anything more. So, you know, and then this gets more into the green building. We want the builders to build the best that they can build. So, you know, what else is there? And it has to be now, I think, more than bonus density, but that's our next discussion.
Yeah, so why don't we go ahead and I'll say a few words about the green building and the topic 8, GBIP. And I think a lot of people have been following this along, so I'll keep it short. And then we can look at these together. So we had asked Scott.
Quick question. Does this group commit someone to chase the actual performance a year later?
No, we count on the county to be accountable.
The county does that or does not?
Well, that's a good question. We've been putting in, if you put it in the standard site conditions, then they sign that they will do it, and then the county has. But otherwise, if they just show up at SPRC and say, oh, we're gonna do this, this, and this, and we go, oh, that's great, we love you. And then they don't do it, there's a very,
I think
yeah,
on the
it's a
energy
huge
performance, they have to demonstrate they're meeting the performance required through energy, usually through Energy Star certification. So that they do, because actually if you just do LEED, it doesn't matter because they can get the LEED certification and not actually meet what the modeling says that they're gonna do.
If Jenna wants to speak to that, we'd love to hear it, but if she doesn't want to, I don't blame her.
Oh, yeah, Rob asked this question just recently, and yes, so Paul, our green building program manager, is in charge of this, and basically, yes, everything that you were just asking follows through on.
Okay,
so
awesome, thank you.
so one of the things we asked for last year when the first update of the proposed update of green building incentive policy came out, we asked a lot and said, what about this? What about this? And we heard from county staff, developers have said they will do this, they will do this. And we said, we'd love to be in a room with them and hear them. We can have a dialogue. Can you make that happen? And that didn't happen until it did happen in August. Jenna helped make it happen. And Jason, they pulled together a roundtable of developers and environmental activists. So we're all in the same room, and it was very interesting. And the developers were very cordial and frank. And they said, we love green buildings, we love the planet, we love to do everything, But what we can do is what our business model allows. And that means stuff has to be paid for. And bonus density helps, but it's not working so much right now because land is so expensive and building is so expensive. We're not building we're not building as big buildings. But yeah, if you give us bonus density, fine. Or if you ask us to do things that we can find a way to pay for, like electrification, if we're gonna operate the building, then we will realize some gains from that. EV parking, we could charge our tenants more for EV parking. Those are things where we see a revenue stream. If you ask us to do things where there is no revenue stream, we're not gonna do it. And one of them gave us an example. He said, we calculated on X building that the bonus density was worth 1.2 million. And the bird-friendly glass on that building alone was $800,000. And there's no way for the other 400,000 we could do the other things. So we just didn't do green building. So they were very open about everything has to be incentivized. I'm sure there's no surprise to you, Scott.
No.
So we are living in the world of incentives. And that is, again, not that surprising. So since that time, Jason has come forward and given us a preview of what so you may recall the one Roslyn hearing, staff, county board said, when are we going to have the new GBIP? And the county manager said, we're going to have it in the fall. And everybody said, wow, in the fall. And he said, well, remember, fall goes to winter solstice, December 21st. So this team is still on track to do this. And Jason, and I said, do you mean have a draft out? And he said, no, I mean have something ready for the board to vote on. So they're having staff's meeting with boards, briefing boards. So the old proposed GBIP had 4 tracks. First one was new building, which is going to be still incentivized with bonus density. The second one was existing buildings, which
Was the bias,
okay.
what do you call that?
Climate adaptive pathway.
Okay,
Thank
I'm
you.
not doing
Like
them.
fewer buildings.
Yeah, all right. So
No
then,
electric,
We want everyone.
all electric.
so for FIAS, so I have them in a different order. Okay, the FIAS pathway, which is really a super pure building, which Jason is hoping to do as a pilot, where maybe the county could help pay for consulting or something like that. We heard from the developers in that meeting that there's no way they're doing FIAS. No way they're doing FIAS. And that they like LEED, they know LEED, their investors know LEED, everybody knows LEED, even LEED 5.0. Don't give us all these other acronyms. We like LEED. And it's true, LEED is much better established in the public mind, but FIAS is better. So that's why the county would think about doing a pilot, but that's not going to be a huge part. Existing buildings is a huge struggle. We all see that tons of our emissions in the county come from existing buildings, but they don't need bonus density. What other things? Tax incentives are apparently not permitted under Virginia law in the way that the county would like to use them, although people are still pushing on that. So the previous proposal was talking about cash. As I mentioned, cash was not that attractive to the developers, and also the county's it's no longer very attractive to the county as we struggle through the current world that we're living in. So on existing buildings, the county's already enacted CPACE, so they're hoping that existing buildings, they'll see how far they can get with CPACE.
That's getting not great traction.
It's getting no traction. So the question is, how can it be made more attractive or made more marketed better? And then the last thing is these adaptive reuse projects. And those will be covered in the separate adaptive reuse. So all the conversations we're having about incentives for those, they face a lot of the same problems of bonus density doesn't work, tax incentives, all the things I just said. So and on a timeline, plan is to have something out in time for us to review and write a letter. I think some people are going to write a letter even just based on that, saying don't give up on existing buildings and there's more to be done and we've got to get to the track of the tax incentives. But this will come out. I know Jason has already asked for time on the October meeting, so I think he's hoping to be able to give us at least more of an in-depth overview, and then we'll have to decide what to do. But the idea that the county could be voting on this by the end of the year is impressive. So Jenna, I don't know if you have anything you'd like to add.
I do. I don't know if it's timely, but I think that, you know, what you said, you know, there are definitely there's more to it. I think that there's a little bit more that we need to flesh out, you know, the tax incentives. That was actually a full discussion of, you know, that it would have to cross all pathways. We can't just do one pathway. We can't just pick and choose what we want to do. It has to be a full, you know, fully enacted across all pathways. A few other things, you know, that the county is working on, like you were saying, and, you know, I'm sure Jason will probably give a better overview in October. And so I'll just stop there.
More to come.
Yeah, definitely.
But I just point out for, you know, City of Fairfax has, again, it's a draft policy. They do have an incentive policy, and it would cover both new and basically major renovations of existing buildings. And basically the requirements are LEED Gold plus energy efficiency. I think they set it at 30% above. I don't know. I get so confused.
So
these days,
ASHRAE, probably.
Probably ASHRAE above the baseline. So, you know, that model, you know, it's not going to work for all existing buildings because a lot of buildings just aren't going to retrofit completely at one time. They're going to do it piecemeal. So there needs to be those others, you know, how can you make CPEGs work? How can you just maybe even just provide, you know, assistance or direct them to where they might get some financing?
May not work for this fast a deadline, but long term, I think the play is you're not going to get every one of those tracks to catch every project you want.
Right.
But where can you catch the most projects, most of what's being done in the market at the time? Because that's where you're going to get results. And the other thing is, to your point about cities, we should be colluding with our county neighbors who are doing the same thing so that we're all kind of level set in that playing field.
Right.
Developers will always go where the money is easiest to spend with the least headache. And if Arlington gives them pains, they will move to Montgomery County or do somewhere else. But if it's all kind of level set playing field, then they're stuck. Just an idea.
Well, and that could be an argument we can use as let's push towards what DC and Montgomery County
Right.
is
Just
requiring.
to get them aligned.
Yeah, because I've seen the argument against Montgomery County. It's like, oh, we can go to Arlington.
Right, exactly. And right now Virginia is an easier place.
I just pulled up the CPACE webinar that we will be hosting on October 23rd, from 2 to 3 p.m. I definitely, you know, I can send this link around as well, but this is for the building owners to actually learn a little bit more. I know, hearing from an industry expert, if it sounds like there isn't much traction, perhaps this would just, you know, expand the conversation around it.
I tried to get Nature Conservancy to do this just in good faith as a way to go, and they said, yeah, our money's cheaper. So
Yeah.
it's tough, and there's still issues with financial institutions where how that is subordinated to the primary loan, and there's a whole bunch of stuff. But California's doing it pretty well. There are places where it's happening. It takes time.
Mm-hmm. So one thing I want to mention that I didn't say about the new construction track under that the current plan is to base it on LEED 5.0. And Jason said it was still TBD whether they would pick certain areas that you had to get your points in, but it will be based on LEED. So I think there's a lot still to come on this. It's particularly in our next meeting in October. So I'm wondering what we would like. So I'm wondering what we would like to do with the site plan conditions letter. I do think that the basic point that these things have to go hand in hand and that we really want to push you to do this should be made. I am fine with adding something more detailed that, you know, we're particularly, where did, we scroll up a little bit. Yeah. Okay, down a little bit. Okay. You know, right, it says policy, the Alexandria policy generally sets significantly higher standards than Arlington. critical areas such as energy efficiency, building electrification, renewable electricity, and parking. So we could, there's this paragraph that's in the comments there that says a related approach would be to go with LEED 5.0 because it's so well established. For the standard site conditions, we could do like silver, LEED silver for the standard site conditions and LEED gold for the GIP. There's that thought in that paragraph. And then there's Lily's list, which I think you just added this afternoon, so I haven't seen it, but let's scroll through it. So energy use intensity.
More detail and perhaps for the letter, I thought that it could be too much, but it's just the spirit of what is needed. Because if somebody who's reading this letter and has no background or information, just reads electrification, EV parking, that's very general.
Yes,
so I went ahead and put what I thought could be. And I know it's probably too wordy and too much, but it's just.
Well, maybe not. Maybe not. I think they probably appreciate more detail. So, but I don't know that I want to take a side of saying these are the things that matter. Don't just go with LEED. I don't want this to be read as these are the things we care about. Don't go with LEED because. So I think we've got a couple of different options on the table and a lot of time. So what do people think, Doug?
Okay, that's a fundamental question. So, and I remember the meeting, I think it was this commission where Susan Cunningham, I think was the one who suggested what you guys really ought to do, improve, raise the site plan stuff. It's like, yep. And that was the one with Kim Pexton, I think.
Yeah.
So that's my.
Oh, that was July.
That you're saying in this letter that we urge the board direct county staff to strengthen sustainability requirements of the current site plan conditions in conjunction with the GBIP update. Well, the GBIP update is coming out of the air team, but I suspect that changing this current site plan conditions to strengthen their sustainability requirements is going to come from another group within county staff. Is that correct?
I would think it would come from.
Would that, so would the,
Can you guys work on standard site conditions, work with the staff?
or is that something?
Something within like permitting or
CPHD, right?
Yeah, but if you look at it,
County staff.
it does mirror what's in the green building incentive policy is, because they have one whole section that is actually green building incentive policy. And then they have, and you like the energy efficiency targets are directly pulled from the GBI.
It would be easy to do, but it still has to be a different group. It's not the air team that's going to be doing this.
Hey, that's the all of government approach.
It's one of the very old law. It sounds like it was put into place years and years ago. And we were thinking of, well, can we change that 2001 rule essentially? And so I think that that's what she was suggesting that we push for is let's change that. Let's relook at the 2001.
Which is great. That makes perfect sense, but we don't want to hold up the GBIP while this other group within the county.
I kind of do because
Okay.
I don't see how you can do one without the other.
And I think they can.
You're just saying it's not optimum.
And that I think they can, it's an administrative update, site plan conditions.
So it's not a
I
big-
don't think they need to, they go through the same kind of engaging with the commercial sector in particular. So I'm kind of, and some of those discussions will already go hand in hand as they're talking about the GBIP.
The GBIP is going to, I'd like to think my letter could stop it, but the GBIP is going to move because Mark Schwartz has told the county board it's by the winter solstice. So the idea then is to push.
Well,
Site conditions to come along.
Those that, again, they should, as they come up with what they want baseline GBIP, they can circle back, okay, what should the baseline be in the site plan conditions? And we want those relatively close, but not identical, so that there's at least something that they're giving us.
Scott?
I'd also, think you had a suggestion to maybe cherry pick a few credits out of the 5. I would recommend against that because it's sometimes, depending on the project, difficult enough to meet all the prerequisites and get to the ones that'll get you over silver threshold. So making that more confusing or making it harder, I'd rather just see them get the LEED certification. LEED 5, every time they put out a new version, they raise the floor
Right.
on things. And they're doing a decent job of trying to keep up or keep kind of ahead of the curve of what national codes are doing. Also because not everybody adopts the national codes in a timely manner. Sometimes it's
Really?
so.
I wonder what states.
So just identifying.
Right.
You can always
Right.
just say the most current version of LEED so that you never have to go back and
Right.
change that.
Right. Yeah,
Do it.
Yeah.
right.
And not only the most current version, but at the time of the of when they go before the county,
Application.
not when they start.
I don't. I
You
don't
can't do
know
that.
It has to be aligned with criteria.
This year, you started
License.
in
Exactly.
December
All of it's
last year.
If
Yeah,
you changes midstream, you gotta get grandfathered into.
You gotta
it.
grandfather. Did not have,
It's too
so
difficult.
we don't have to figure out all of these plans. We do know that Jason said they had not decided for the green building incentive policy whether they were gonna pick points. But going back to the standard site conditions, what do we as a group want to say? Do we want to say something about what the standard site conditions should be more than just, hey, look at what Alexandria's done in this slew of categories?
I think we should go ahead and at least put our wish list in and what should be
Okay,
included.
and is our wish list LEED 5.0 or is it what Lily is listed?
Current version of.
Current version. Okay, so let's look at Rob's paragraph in the comments. And you can scroll.
Cindy, just given time, should we take this offline or do we have to approve this tonight?
But we have to prove it. So let's just take a quick look at your paragraph. And then we will go from, well, because they're working on all of this right now. I think it's that one could add the following: a related approach would be to identify the most important elements to achieve. So we want to not say that, we want to say just LEED, we want to just change it to LEED, most current version of LEED, current. So Rob, should we just change it to say the most current version of LEED, like LEED 5.0, and you and I can work it out in the morning?
I think it's fine.
Later in
On
the week.
the point Scott just made.
So-
Just to be clear about what this paragraph does, this follows Alexandria's approach of cherry picking a few things that we
Right.
care about so that they can't get points in areas where they're likely to get points very
Like being
easily
near
and
transit.
not address climate issues that we care about.
Right.
as much.
Right,
I would suggest that we could suggest those would be more favorably looked upon, but not.
Okay. so that
Like in-
most current version of LEED, currently LEED 5.0, with thought given to getting the most points. And we don't have, from the areas we care about the most, and we don't have to say whether they have to get certification or not, because that's a controversial issue. Because it's expensive to get certification, but it also gives you all of the accountability that comes with the LEED people.
So the Senate program requires certification.
It's in, well, who knows, but the current one does, the current one does,
I mean, otherwise, what's the point?
yeah.
I mean, and there should be, and I know there's some relatively to developer modest penalty if they don't deliver.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, just administratively, my company will charge $35,000 to $50,000 to manage the process of applying for the
Right,
certification.
that's exactly why as I understand it, why Alexandria decided not to require certification.
Yeah.
But I think you get some benefit. Scott, I think you provide some benefit for that $50,000, don't you?
There are some benefits, but many people just look at that as I paid $50,000 for a plaque on the wall.
Right, all I got was this T-shirt,
Right.
exactly.
So there are sustainable strategies that can follow the prescriptive tracks that you can tell as good a story, but you don't have the plaque. You could focus more on the actual energy performance and usage of the building and not worry so much about bike racks and other things that are included in LEED if you wanted to do that. But if you want something that most people will know how to relate to, this is the best way.
So,
Unless you have another month and a half to dig into it.
I bet if we could see the screen, we'd see questions and comments from people who are online. But leaving that aside for now, so I move adoption of this letter, subject to a paragraph that says, adding a paragraph that's similar to the paragraph that's in there now that just says, based on the most current version of Lead 5.0, currently Lead 5.0, with consideration given to cherry picking. And that Rob and I be delegated the authority to finalize the letter and get it out.
Second.
All in favor? Okay,
No
great.
questions and comments on mine either.
Oh, good. I didn't feel bad. We just dropped them. That's the best thing to do. So before we go to, keep them quiet. Sorry, guys, you know I love you. So before we do the transportation plan, let's just quickly, so C2 Energy Committee members have to be reappointed by this group. There's a lot of members continuing to serve, many who are overlapping. I'm looking at a couple down there. Elizabeth has given me the names, and she's also adding a new member. I sent around his bio. They look great. So can I get a motion to reappoint the Energy Committee people per the memo that was circulated prior to this meeting?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed? All right, and Jenna's July meeting summary. There are comments here and there, but subject to the comments and approval, get a motion to approve.
I move the agreement.
Second?
Second.
Great. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All right. Okay, Joan, what may be your last official presentation as a commission?
Yeah, and first off, kind of thank Lily because she did a lot of kind of looking at my initial notes and kind of expanding a bit on what we're being asked to do. But with the Transportation Advisory Group, they met on September 11th, and as usual, they gave us homework. And with two things. One is to actually look at the approved vision and goals, particularly the approved goals, and under each of them come up with what opportunities there were and what challenges were. This is actually going to be used to have to help them draft, or I expect they probably have it fairly well drafted anyway, but it will help informed as they're drafting their strategies and the policies and strategies for the master transportation plan update. So that, again, kind of getting something that as a link to transportation. Appreciate everybody going in. I think we got a good list of things. It looks like we got at least 3 for all. And I tend to be a little loose and don't always follow directions on homework. So I went, and Lily will be the one turning it in as she takes over on so, if we have 1 or 2 extras, I'm good with that as long as we're, comfortable with that. And then the other portion of it was actually looking at the network maps, which, is a little bit, for me, it's a little bit more challenging not being visual because, what I want to know is, do we have a good network that will let people get to where they want to go easily? And for those that bike, can they bike anywhere in Arlington and around the region without getting killed? It's kind of, having those connected bike routes. So I did try to look at some of my neighborhood things, say, well, okay, this Washington Boulevard for a little while seemed to be, bike preferenced. What they're gonna is basically, they used to just say, oh, we want bike lanes, we want this, we want that. And then all of a sudden, when they had to use those guidelines, they found street isn't wide enough to do all those things. So they're looking at it is the first priority is always going to be the sidewalks and pedestrian safety. So, and sometimes because like along North Reed Road, the sidewalks are pretty narrow, they're right up against the street. So if they ever do anything to improve that, it's going to have an impact on the rest of there's not going to be enough room to do both bike infrastructure and transit. So, they have to, so they're trying to decide, which corridors. But, regardless, I think, especially on biking, if it's not a main corridor that's going mostly transit, then where the bikes go. And does it mean that, there's a break in where the bikes go? And that's, again, some people, again, and we have until the 13th. So if people can kind of look at those maps and kind of think about where I live, where I want to go, does this make sense? Or is there some general comments? Again, this is kind of guidance for the county in terms of how to do these things.
It's great. Thank you.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, by the way, that I skipped over Henry because his project isn't on the county board or planning commission agenda in the next few weeks. So I moved his presentation to October. So I forgot to mention, so I just crossed it off.
So, I mean, we can kind of go through these things if we want to.
I don't know that we have time, but it looks
Okay,
like we got good
otherwise,
engagement.
Lily will come back and keep pounding people to add anything more.
The presentation that the county did, the deck, is useful to understanding the concept of model priority and also how the maps are constructed. Because when you look at the map and they don't blow, like it's hard to see the routes. Yeah. So for you to comment, so that presentation.
That's good because I did look at the map.
Yeah, the maps are there. You have to, except it's really hard to tell the different colors. And I guess, if they kind of do reds and blues and greens, you got the color blind problem. So yeah, they're going to clean these maps up before they start public engagement, which will begin at the end of October. So hopefully they will, and they'll be blown up much larger in at least in-person sessions. So, there's, able to see them a little bit more clearer, but
It's so, I mean, the range of people who are here, the person who was here testifying before was saying that, she was talking a lot about transportation in Arlington and how it should all be designed for single women who can't go out by themselves after dark. And I was saying there were a lot of single women in Arlington who do go out for themselves. She got that. Anyway, so and she was saying that this should be the standard. I should be able to get, a single woman in the dark. That should be what everything should be planned around. And I think it's big, and I'm sure her perspective is shared, and I'm sure there are a lot of other, transportation is very important to our quality of life. So thank you.
People that are disabled.
Yeah.
It's very important for students who can't drive, and hopefully they'll kind of pick up this habit and it will carry out through life. So, I think at least at the count when they adopted the goals, one woman come up, she's an avid biker, and I'm scared to death every time my kid gets on the bike.
Yeah.
Because I know what the drivers are like and I know what it's like. So it's,
This county,
everybody's got to.
county's outside of us.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But
Personal.
yeah.
To be honest, Arlington was very visionary when they planned to put the metro in. They did transit oriented development before it was a thing. So, but we've now gotten to a point, and I think that's, is that we need more. I mean, we need it. How do we continue to define it so that everybody is part of that transit oriented development?
Right. How can we continue to be visionary? We're going to the updates. And first of all, I want to thank everybody. I see a lot of people have weighed in on a lot of the things we circulated. This agenda was full of stuff. I know it was. We sent everything. The fact that people did their homework and to speak of homework and put in all the stuff made it possible for us to get through and make all of these decisions. I think, I don't know, Elizabeth, is there anything you want to say from the energy?
Time, I don't think.
And low residential study, we've said what we're going to say. That was what the public comment was about. That's what Lisa will be reporting back to us. In Roslyn, Doug, I think you just want to say whatever.
Just be real quick. So that Inner Roslyn was a difficult project because it was it's a very small area, and it was supposed to be garden style apartments. And the county staff objected before the planning commission and before the county board to this going forward because it did not comply with this whole site plan thing that it was supposed to be, but it wasn't going to be developed. So they had an 8-story residential building, and it was going to sit vacant if they didn't. And the takeaway for me is there is such of pressure and an overwhelming desire among the planning commission, lawyers, the county board, more housing. We need more housing. And they're basically willing to override or ignore the planning from 12 years ago where they said garden style apartments. And they're like, well, you know, we need housing. We really need housing. So that was just a lesson for me that had an impact. Thanks.
Right, thanks. And we did you had worked on the SPRC, and from a climate perspective.
It was not awful.
We were fine with it.
It's not awful.
Not awful. And again, it actually had some
Trees.
proposals
Oh, yeah.
that would have been extremely, that could be extremely energy efficient. They just don't know which of the three different options they have to take. But, you know, again, it could actually be a really good project from certainly an energy.
So they put it up, so the attorney, they wrote a letter to the county board the day before it was supposed to go up for a review and said, we're pulling this. But the attorney, Nick Cummings, who we know from the roundtable, was quite definite before the county board in person that we're coming back to this in January. We're bringing it back. We're not canceling this. We're bringing it back. So I don't know what's going on behind the scenes.
Yeah.
It's a mystery to me, but
I just thought that was interesting. If we look at all the different considerations that are being balanced, of which sustainability is just one. That's a project that we like that is still.
Yeah.
Okay, so
All
it's not
because-
just about us. Yeah.
You wanted open space, right, facing Route 50, which to me is not a great spot for these things anyway, but again, you know, it's some of this is actually taking a step back, and it's like, yeah, you need open spaces in these areas. Where do we want to put it? As opposed to, we put it in a plan 10 years ago right here, so it has to be right here.
So thank you, everyone. Is there anything else? Welcome, Scott. Thank you for being here. Joan, this is our paths will cross again. We will clap for you. Thank you. Thank you for hanging out with us. We appreciate it. And I think
Thank you, Cindy.
adjourned.
Okay.
Yeah.